Hey everyone, welcome to the channel Data Science Stuff. We do data science related stuff here, hence the name. In this video, we are going to talk about list comprehensions and how to write it, why to write it, and when exactly it is useful. So let's get started with this video. And as you can see on the screen, I already have created 4 lists here. It's people, country, language, and numbers. So 3 of them are a list having string values, and one list here that I have made is having a numerical value. So we will be using this as an example as we go ahead in our video, right? So first of all, I try to understand that list comprehension is nothing like more special. It's just a way to iterate over your values into the list in more Pythonic way. That's what it is. And there are multiple ways to do it. So let's consider this idea that you want to iterate over a list of values, and then you want to do some operations on that, right? So that's the most common use case why we use for loops or any kind of list comprehensions. So let's take an example of the numerical list here. Let's say you want to iterate over this list value. So what will you do exactly is you will create a for loop, because that's the most common type of loop people use, right? So if you want to do that, you will write something like this: for num in numbers. If you do print num, what it will do basically is it will iterate through every element in the list numbers and it will print it for you, right? So that's the very basic output, of course, if you do that, right? Now let's say that you want to build a new list altogether from this. So let's just increase the number of cells here. By the way, if you are working on Jupyter notebook and you want to increase the number of cells here, you just tap on this square brackets and press A and it increases the cells. So it's a very cool trick I learned after a long time using Jupyter notebook, so I just thought to share with you. All right, so yeah, if you want to create a new list, right, from an existing list, you can use multiple ways to do that, and that's the basic way, that's the basic idea why people use loops or list comprehensions. Okay, so to do that, we will be using first of all the most common way of doing it, and then we will go for the list comprehensions. So to do that in the most common way, we will be using for loop in the first place. So let's do it here. Let's create a new list is equals to, we will create an empty list, right? And once we have instantiated an empty list, what we'll do is we'll do again the same stuff that we have done above. In num is numbers, and instead of printing, we will append it to the new list. So when you do this new list dot append, and then you append the num value, what exactly will happen, that this for loop will run, and num is nothing but the member of all the collection in the list numbers, right? So it just goes, iterates over every member in the collection, and it appends that member into the newly created list, right? So if you print this new list here, you will get the same output in a list format, right? So you get this point. Now if you want to write this in a list comprehension way, so what will be different? So to understand how to write a list comprehension itself, you understand the basic syntax or the general way of writing it. So the general way of writing is like this: item is equals to, you will have a list, and then you will have some kind of expression for item in a collection. So this is the most common way of referring referring, as in this is the most common way of defining how you can how you should see the structure of any list comprehensions being made, right? So let me just convert this to a markdown so that it's nicely visible here. Expressions, okay, yeah. So you will always try to see and create list comprehensions in this way, and I will try to connect it again to this particular sentence. Okay, now let's go and create a list comprehension for our first example here. So as I said, you have to create a new variable, new list, and then you instantiate an empty list. So instead of writing a for loop, now we will start inside the list itself to write our code, right? And for creating a list instance, what you do is num for num in numbers. That's it. So if you write this and you print your new list, you get the exact same output, right? So this is nothing but a list comprehension that you created to iterate over every element in a given list, right? So what's the difference here? Now as you see that you had to do a couple of steps here. You had to instantiate an empty list in the above example. Then in this example you had to like loop through every element in the list and then append that value to the new empty list, right? In this case you didn't have to do that. You just had to instantiate a list itself, and inside that list you put your code here, right? Now I will try to link this in this particular manner. So always remember that when you write a list comprehension, you always start from bottom to top, right? And in a for loop you start from top to bottom. Like if you want to iterate over any list and you have to check for all the values, you will start from the top. Like you will see for num in numbers, like for every element in a given list, do this, right? And it returns some value. When you write the list comprehension, you start from what you want to return first, right? In our case we want to return this num value, so we will write num first, and then we will provide the syntax, like from where do you want this first variable to be given. That's the idea. Okay, so let's say that our next example we can take again. If you want to, let's say, multiply this thing itself, right? So let's create squares, a new list, and then we can provide our list comprehension here, and then we can say is num. So basically if you understand, again, num for num in numbers, it's the same thing, right? So the idea is this first term num, this first term is the value that we are trying to return, right? So if you want to perform some action, that is our expression now. So if you perform like num into num, it will multiply, right, for num in numbers. So this will give you the squares of all the numbers in the list. Got it? So it gives you square of every element in the list. Why does it happen? Because if you see this part is nothing but expression. Expression can be any condition, any function, or any value that you want to return, like without any action as well. So the first part always in the list comprehension will be an expression, right? And after that it will be for item in a collection. So for item means for the member, like member as in for every element in the list. So it could be any element of a particular collection that you are talking about. So the collection could be any list, any dictionary, or any array, anything, right? It should be iteratable. That's it. That's the requirement, right? So this is what our second example looks like. Now let's go ahead and try to loop, like, I mean, in fact the same way you can loop through numerical as well as string value as well. Like if you want to do this, let's say new list is equals to letter for letter in language, right? So if you do that, it will give you all the unique not unique, but it will give you all the values that are in that particular list. So it's very simple example, and it's very easy to loop through it, right? But we will see more advanced implementation of this list comprehensions in just a minute. So let's say that you want to put some conditions as well. Like this expression could be extended if you want to implement some conditions also, again, after doing this basic example. So to implement a condition, let's put a new comprehension. New is equals to okay, y for y. Let's create a new actual list itself. Y for y in numbers. I can put numbers too. So if we do that, you know what will happen. You will get every value in the list numbers. If you want to perform some specific actions now, or you want to put some specific filter now, so after this statement you will put your if conditions, right? So let's say if you want to just return even numbers, so you will put if y mod 2 is equals to 0, right? So that just means if y mod 2 is equals to 0, that means it is divisible by 2, and hence that's an even number, right? So it will return only even numbers now. So if you run that, as you can see, the output is only even numbers, correct? And the good thing about this list comprehension is it's not complicated. If you see, it's very human readable. Like as I said, the first term is what you want to return, and the second term and the second stuff is like from where you want to access that term which you want to return. And after that, it's all about conditions, right? So if you want to put one more condition now, it's very simple, that you don't have to put any colon, you don't have to put any comma. In Python 3 and above, it's you just put another condition here. Like let's say you want to return the list which is divisible by 2 and divisible by 3 as well. So if y mod 3 equals to 0, it will return you all the number which is divisible by 3 as well as 2, like that, right? And similarly you can put as many number of conditions you want to put, like if I don't know, if y mod 5 equals to 0 as well. Like let's see if there is any value. There is no value, right? So I mean, yeah, it's, by the way, it's an and condition. Like it has to be it has to fulfill all these conditions, then only it will return the value. So let's say if I erase the second condition, if I put 2 and 5, so it will give me 10 and 20 because it's divisible by both of them. So that's how you use multiple conditions in a list comprehension way, right? Now let's say that you had to write this same condition in a for loop. How would you approach, right? You will write a new list. As we all know, we will instantiate a new list, and then you will write a something like this, like a for loop for y in numbers, right? You will write something like this for y in numbers. One second. For y in numbers, print y. So I'm printing y because just to show what exactly it will hold right now. It will hold our all elements of the list, right? So our target is to make this list comprehension into the for loop. So just see the construction of this for loop now. We have instantiated a list, we have provided a for loop sentence, and then we will go ahead and write our conditions here, right? Because we want to return the numbers which are divisible by 2 as well as 5. So we will write here if condition, if y mod 2 is equals to 0, then we'll put colon as we would generally do, and then we will put another condition here if we want to use two conditions, right? So if y mod 5 equals 0 as well, only then either you can return the value, like return y, or you can of course print the value, right? You can print it as well, but in this case we will append in our new list. So we will do new list dot append y, right? So what it will do is basically it will run through the elements, and it will append all the value that meets this condition into our new list, right? So if you want to check the value here, you can call that new list and run it. So as you can see, the output is exactly same. So this is how you write a list comprehension. Now try to understand what are we doing here, right? So this is a for loop, correct? Now this is almost in 4 lines here, almost 5 lines here, right? Plus we had to write every if conditions in a new line, and it just goes increasing, right? So it could be a little bit complicated to understand, or maybe trace back if something goes wrong. That's also there. Plus the line of code is increasing. And if you see, if we implement the same logic in the list comprehension, it can be done in one line itself, no matter how many if conditions you need to put now, right? You can think of yourself now. Let's say you are doing any data science analysis and you want to generate some new data set by putting some new conditions, like different conditions and filters. You can just do it in this manner, correct? It's that simple, and it is very readable. It's like in one line you can read what all conditions you are applying and what are conditions you are putting here in this list comprehensions to return your value. So that's the good thing about it. And as you can see, the construction of it is exactly the same way I mentioned here previously. Where was that? Yeah, this one, right? So this is what I mentioned here, right? So it is in a same way, but there is just one small change. So if you see, this syntax is exactly same, but after this collection you will have this one more thing, right? If condition, right? So this expression is exactly same like this one. Like if you want to create a list comprehension, you will have some expression which is y, that the value you want to return or the action you want to perform, right? And for item, like for every number, for every item in a given collection, for y in numbers, and then the if conditions, right? So that's how the list comprehension is made, and it's pretty simple to understand once you get used to it. So that's what is a good thing about it. So do look about these conditions very specifically. Try to like repeat this explanation if you want to, but perform this this implementation on a couple of examples. Then you will be very much comfortable using list comprehensions, and it's a very good thing. Okay, let me show you one more thing. You must be knowing this range function, right? If you type range 100, you can get all the values from 0 to 100. As you can see here, it is 0 to 100. So if I just I don't know, print it, it will give you all the value. okay, it does not give it that way. We can use it in a if we can use it in a list comprehension itself to generate our values instead of giving it explicitly any list here. So let's say that if I say what do I okay x for x in range, let's say 100, right? So what it gives is, it gives me every element from 0 to 100, right? We did not have to define it here like numbers. So you can also do one more thing. You can write this same list function for list comprehension for any given range of a numbers, not just specifically any list which has any numbers, right? If you do this y for y in range 100, and then it will find you every number which is divisible by 2 and 5 from the range of 0 to 100. So as you can see, it is from 0 to 90 it's giving, right? Because these all number that is here is divisible by 2 as well as divisible by 3. And you can of course increase any number of conditions or any different type of conditions as well, like if y mod 2 or if divide by 2, anything, like anything if you can think of. Yeah, it's that simple to implement it. So let's just put one more condition. If you put it, so this 4 number we have returned. So from this means that from 0 to 100 we have 0, 30, 60, 90. These numbers are divisible by 2, by 5 and by 3, right? So this 4 numbers only meet this criteria defined in our list comprehension, hence they are as an our output, right? So that's how powerful list comprehension is. All right, so in actually we have to also discuss about set and dictionary comprehensions, how to write that. That is also very interesting and very useful. But before going that, let me show you one more cool trick which you can use while doing your list comprehension stuff. So let's say you are doing some data science analysis and you have to like update some labels into your column and it's and stuff, right? For let's say binary class classification you're doing, and you have values 0 to 1, but you don't want to represent it like 0 and 1, but you want to represent it like, let's say, a spam or non-spam, some textual, some string value, right? So you can do that as well using list comprehension. You just have to define the string value before this thing. That's how simple it is. So let's say we can find all the odd even number within this given given number, right? So let's import actually a library which is numpy, just to generate some random numbers, nothing else, as np. And we can generate a normal I guess we can generate a range of numbers. Let's say s is equals to num mod okay, let's first do the simple one, num for num, so that you see where are we coming from. Num for num in range, let's use range, not much but 50, right? So if we do that, of course, if we do that, you can see we have 0 to 50, right? All the numbers. Okay, let's not do 50, let's do 10. Why to complicate stuff? 20. Okay, it's same as our numbers itself, our numbers list, but we are using range to generate this thing. So the idea is, my point is that we can put some string values if we want to generate some labels. So let's say that we want even an odd number, right? So we can do that by using our conditions, as I explained in the last time. So this is nothing but so to do that, all right, so to create even and odd numbers, what we can do is we can simply divide this first. We can divide every element by 2, right? So if we put mod 2 here, so it will divide. This is our expression now. This is our item in the collection, right? As you can see here. So this will give us all even and odd numbers. So every number till the range 20, is it even or odd? So that's what it's giving. So it's like the one which is 0, it's even because it can be divisible by 2, and the 1 is not divisible by 2, that's why it is 1, right? So let's say that we don't want 0 and 1 as our output. We want something else, like we want even and odd. So you can simply do that by writing a string value in front of your list comprehension, which is nothing but a value here. So you can say even, right? You can do even if num divisible by 2, right? And then you can put here else another value which is odd, right? So now just try to relate to your expression that I just discussed before, this one. So now this is your expression here. This whole thing is your expression, that this is what you want to do. You want to label it even if the num is divisible by 2, else label it odd, right? For all the things that is not divisible by 2. So if you run this, you can see everything is converted as odd and even. So we have successfully labeled our output as well. So this is how powerful it is. So you can just put anything, even numbers on stuff, anything, right? So it can label it as you go. So it's very powerful tool to use. And you can now relate if you are doing some data science analysis and you want to update any column values with some string values. You can simply write some function and some list comprehension in that function, and then you can apply that function directly to the column itself using some other lambda function stuff, right? That is possible. Now let's go to our next part, which is dictionary comprehensions. Actually, this was list comprehension, and we can do now dictionary comprehension. Even that is very interesting to learn about. Comprehension. Okay, the spelling is difficult than the code actually. All right, so let's say we have our two list here, right? People and country we had, and one more list we had was language, right? So this three list is what we have with us. So again, you know that we can create a for loop to loop through our values, and we can in fact create nested loop as well to loop through multiple lists, and we will go through that as well as we go ahead. So let's start with simple implementation first. Yeah, let's loop through this for L in people, print L. Of course you know this by now, and it will do the same stuff that we did before with the numbers. This is just to prove that okay, it works with string value as well as numerical value as well. But let's write a string. Let's write a list comprehension for this first, and then we'll go for the dictionary comprehension. We can just try to see how dictionary comprehension is powerful too, right? So let's just write a simple list comprehension first. Not num, but L for L in language. Let's say where, not where, if L is not equal to, let's say you want to omit some of the value of this language itself. So let's say you want to retrieve every value in language but not one language, which is maybe, let's say, Bahasa, right? So you can put a directly a condition here, right? And if you do that, you will have every output but instead of Bahasa, because it has fulfilled this condition that if this matches to this particular language, do not give it, right? So that's what is happening. Okay, so the next thing is we can talk about is a nested list, right? So if you know nested loop, it's very easy to write in for loop. Let's say we want to loop through two lists, and we have to iterate over every value within the two lists, right? So what we will do is here is for, let's say, for name in people, for C in country, right? We can also write the third one, in fact, if you want, for L in language. So what this will do is it will go and see name in people, like everyone, it will see every element in this list people, and it will go and do these two things for every name here. Similarly for every C, for every L, right? So if you print here anything like okay, one second. So since it's a for loop, you put this, and then you can put in the value that you have tried to bring here, right? Like name C, and if you see L, so see what it comes, right? If you write a simple for loop, it returns you every value with every other values in the for loop. So it's a nested loop. What happens here is, let me just delete this so that you can see it in a much better way, right? So it goes through the first list, the first element of the list, that is Vijay, right? And then it goes to the next element, all of the element of the next list, like in India, right? For all the values here, and then for all the values of language itself, like so language, English, Bahasa, Aussie, for all these values. And then after that it will go for another country, and then for after another country. Once that is done, it will change the first name part itself, like for the second element in the first list. So that's how you loop through every element in n number of lists, I can say, right? But again, this is complicated to write also. This is complicated to in fact build as well. right? So for that something we can again write nested loops in a list comprehension way, which is in a single line. It is more difficult, and it is not always good to write nested loops in a list comprehension way, to be honest. But again, I'm just showing you here because it is fairly simple as well to implement. Plus you should just know about it, like if you ever decide to do something, right? So let's create a nested loop. Again, if you remember the principle, it's always the same. You create a list, and the first term that you write in a list comprehension is the expression that you want to return. So let's say we want to return here, our output is print value, right? So we will start from that itself, like name CL. So this is what our output is, right? And then we have 3 conditions here. So that's what we will do. Now remember that this is not condition, sorry for that. This is the items in the list part in our expression. If you remember from the ahead, this expression is done that we want to return, and then the second part is for item in collection. But in our case of nested loop, okay, let's do one thing. Let's just take 2 loops, not to complicate too much. Let's take only 2 loops. Okay, so yeah, it's actually here. So if I print this thing, we get our output properly, right? So yeah, so let's do that. So this is our output, and then remember that when we are trying to write our nested loop, you have to provide the collection from where you are referring this element to, right? So here we are trying to refer 2 elements, that is name and C, which is country. So we have to provide the collection of these members, right? So first member is name. So where does it comes from? For name in people. So that's how you will write it, right? So this is fulfilled. Name will be returned from this collection for name in people, and then don't put any comma because it's Python 3 and ahead. And then for this second collection you will write for C in country. That's how you write a list comprehension or a nested loop in a list comprehension. And if you print it, you get it. But one second, I did not ask for nested loop. How did it print? I mean, it's doing the job, but how did it print? Okay, yeah, because our condition is print itself, correct, right? So yeah, even if I don't put this here in a new list, it will print the output because we are directly asking our expression to print the name, right? So as you can see, this nested loop works properly in this list comprehension way as well, right? So just let's create the output. You get the idea that how to write, but always remember that the first thing is the expression that you want to perform, or the value you want to return, or any action that you want to do, right? Second will be the collection for the collection of the item that you want to return from, right? And if you want to put any condition here, you can write here. So let's say if we want to put condition that if I mean, it can get complicated, but I don't know, like, okay, let's put some condition like if name I don't know, not equal to, let's say my name, like Vijay, right? So it's small letter, so Vijay. So it will ignore this particular condition in it will ignore this value in the name, so it should not show me that value, right? So it just omitted Vijay. Now it starts from Sam, right? You get it? So that's how it is done. It's very simple. It's very interesting to understand about it, and I hope you're following along, because yeah, it is a little complicated, but I hope you can understand it way better than you knew by now. I hope so. So yeah, it's easy to implement. Now let's go ahead and see dictionary comprehension for finally, and yeah, let's get started with that. So we have this okay, to work with multiple lists, we have this function called as zip, right? So we will be using our dictionary comprehension by using one more class in Python, which is called zip, right? So if you want to learn more about zip, you always do this thing, help zip, right? So Python has this help function which you run, if it will tell you all about that particular function. So as you can see, the zip is a class and it accepts an object, right? An iteratable object, actually, right? It always accepts an iteratable object. That means it accepts list, it accepts arrays, or it accepts any dictionary too, right? So let's say that if we pass our, let's clear this thing, clear output, and let's say that we pass our values, right, to this zip function. We have 3 lists here, so we can zip them together side by side to have our values, right? So zip is equals to, not equals to, zip of people. So it will zip it and then with their country and with their language as well, right? So if we see the output of this, we have a zip object. Now even if you try to print it, it will not print the values, but it will print the zip object, right? So what it does basically is it creates a zip object by zipping every value simultaneously, like people is zipped by country and by the language itself, right? Now how to see the values itself? Now you can use something called as set, right? If you do that, let's do one thing. Let's create a variable here calling as zipped. Now we can say that set zipped. Okay, you can run this, right? So if you run this, we can see every value is here, right? Like every name in the people list, every name in the country, and then language has been mapped together, right? So Vijay is from India, he speaks Hindi. Theo is from Indonesia, he speaks Bahasa, something like that. So it is already zipped together. So now you will note one thing: the opening and the closing bracket is a curly braces, right? It's a curly braces by which we used to denote our dictionary, right? So that's where I'm going now. So to define a dict comprehension, like dict comprehension, it's called dict comprehension. Sorry for my spelling dictation. So yeah, so as you can see, if you use zipped and set together, you can combine these kind of values together and create a dictionary out of it. So we can write again same for loop, or in a same way list comprehension, we can write a dict comprehension as well. So let's say that you want to zip together these values, and we can write a simple empty list empty dictionary first of all, right? We can write empty dictionary, and you define dictionary by curly braces, right? And in list we defined it by empty brackets, but for the dictionary we will do by curly braces. So what you will do, same logic, you have to write a for loop to iterate over each value in all the three lists, right? So you will write, let's say something like this: A, B, C, like, because we have three lists to unpack, so we will give it three values or three variables, right? So in, and then we will give zip people, country, and language, right? Because language, right? Because you know that when we run this part zip, it returns us a zip object. So what this for loop will do is that it will store that object value into these three variables, and we will simply print them, print A, B, C. So if we do that, you get some error, which is why, because I missed a comma here, right? If you see, now this has properly looped through every value in that zip expression, and then it prints out the accurate results here, right? So that's what happened here. What you can do here is, now to, like, I mean, instead of printing here, you can also do the main thing which we are supposed to do, like append it into the dictionary itself. My dict append. Oh sorry, okay, yeah, good point actually. Yeah, let me do that. Append A, B, C. I will get an error, and it's interesting to see what is the error. So dict object has no attribute append, that's why it does not work the same way it works in the list. So append is actually not a part of this my dict or dictionary class, so it does not have that function that we can directly append in our empty dictionary here. So for that, what we basically do is we access it by like indexing. So if we are doing this, what we can do here is we can access it by calling the dictionary itself. So it will be like my dict. Let's say that you know that the dictionary is always in the key value pair, right? So it's like this: key, and then there is value, right? This is how dictionary is represented, right? So to create our dictionary comprehensions, we have to specify a key here, which will be A, let's say, for example, and it will be equal to B comma C. So what will happen here is that for every three variables that we have unpacked from this zip value, it will create this my dict here with the key value A and the key value A, sorry, key as A and the value pair as B and C, right? So if we do that, let's run it and let's print our my dict. So as you can see here, we have got this output Vijay, and then in tuple we have India and Hindi. That means B and C, which is country and language, is the value part of the dictionary, and Vijay is the key part of the dictionary. So this is very powerful to actually create a dictionary or manipulate a dictionary as well. So if you want to, let's say, change any key value, like let's say you don't want to access every other attributes in your data set by the key Vijay, you want to access every value as per, let's say, country. So you can put the key as B and the values of the values are the rest of the variables. Like you can put all the variables here. Let's say if you had only like not 3 but 100 of them, you can just list here after the C. So it will be from that key now, right? So as you can see, we have country as a key now and people and language as a value pair. So it is very powerful to create these kind of my dictionary as my dictionary, sorry, my dict dictionary comprehensions. But again, like this is for loop, so we have implemented this dictionary in a for loop. Now how to create a dictionary comprehension? The way we created list comprehension, it's exact the same way, exact the same principle, but instead of list, we are creating a dictionary now. So let's go ahead and create my dictionary comprehension, my dict, but this is a comprehension. Okay, this is not a for loop now. Again, the principle is same, that you can create a square bracket here. In short, I'll tell you why. But now it's different because we are creating a dictionary comprehension. So you will put a curly braces as well, and inside this curly braces you will specify what are you returning. So this is what we are returning now, right? So we will specify here our key value pair. We will say that we want B colon A comma C maybe. So if we do that, A comma C, this is our key value pair. This is what we are returning. So this is our expression part of the equation that we discussed before, right? Our list comprehension or any kind of comprehension that we make has to be in this format: expression for item in collection. So this B colon A comma C is our expression part. Now if you remember that you have to provide the next statement as from where are these coming, these variables, from where are they coming. So B, A, C are coming from, for A, B, C, for A, B, C in zip. Let's just copy from here. This part is from where it's coming from, right? For ABC in zip this thing. So it will print, it will access this part to unpack our values into these three variables, and then we are returning it using this dictionary value here. So you will close your bracket here, and then okay, there's a gap here. You can print the value. Let's see what it does. It gives me an error. It says that invalid syntax, because you can return it either as a tuple. You cannot put it like that. So either you can put a tuple or you can put a list as well, like list of dictionary. So if you do that, you can see the values, right? It's a list of dictionary where the key value pair is linked and the value pair is in a tuple. So if you want something to be in a tuple, you can specify in that way. But if you want also a list, you can actually also do a list data type too. So as you can see, now this value pair is in a list way. So you can manipulate it, you can mutate it, and all that stuff. Good stuff with your dictionary comprehension. Again, you can change it if you like it. If you want some other key value pair, you can do that accordingly. That's not a problem, and it works nicely with that, right? So yeah, this is how it works here. So I think this is very useful to understand, and I hope you are understanding as we are discussing about these topics. If any part of the video, like if you feel like you're not understanding, please pause it, take that example from your to your own notebook, solve that problem, practice it couple of more times, see how we are writing code, try to link it with this expression here itself. It is very helpful, and yeah, you will try to relate everything and you will understand it in a much better way, right? And I think that's all for this video, because we have already discussed list comprehension, dictionary comprehension, and we have also discussed a set too. I guess that will be all. If you want, like, I'll explain in shortly like what exactly this set is, because set is also used. It's not used much, but you can use it in a very unique way for some unique reasons. Let's say you have any duplicate values in any list. Let's say we have number 2 3 4 5 6. Let's say you have duplicate numbers here, right? Yeah, wow, I typed really fast. So here you can see you have duplicate values. So where exactly set is used is that, let's say you create a set comprehension now. Okay, before set comprehension you create a normal list comprehension. Okay, this, so for n in num, so what will this do? It will return everything in the list num, right? We have learned this thing, right? It returns everything. So if you just put a set here, set, so this makes it set comprehension now. So what happens is this set will only return the unique value once, that appears once in the whole list. So if you run this now, see, you can see only these values are returned because they are unique within the whole list. So now you can think of the implementation that you can actually work with it. If you want to return only unique values while you are working with your data sets, you can write simple list comprehensions and then use set with it, so you can always return the unique value set. So that's what you set is used for. So that's it for this video. I hope this was really helpful, and I hope you really liked the explanation. And I'm so sorry if I took too long to explain this thing, but again, it's very complicated topic. It's very important topic, I would say. So if you like the video, really like it, subscribe it, and just comment your thoughts, what exactly you thought about it, if it is good or if it needs an improvement. Do suggest me anything that you feel like. Okay, anyway, again, thank you very much for watching. Do stick to the next one. Take care.